Hi, welcome to this Corbettmaths video. In this video, we're going to look at the video solutions to the use of a calculator practice questions. If you need any extra help on use of a calculator, go to corbettmaths.com/contents and scroll down to video number 352. Alternatively, you can scan this QR code. But in this video, we're going to go through the video solutions to the practice questions, so let's get started. Now, actually, just before we do get started, just to explain, in this video, I'm going to be using two different calculators. I'm going to be using this version here of the ClassWiz, the FX991CW, and I'll also be using this version as well, the FX991EX. They're slightly different in terms of the layout and format, just because at the minute I think this one's sort of come into the shops and is the sort of the newer model out, but a lot of people may still have this version, so I'm going to be using both versions throughout this video. Okay, so let's get started. So let's have a look at our first question. Our first question says, find the value of 86 squared. So let's get our calculators and let's start off with this one here, the ClassWiz one. Both ClassWiz's, but let's start off with this one. So we're going to turn it on. We're working out the value of 86 squared. So here we've got the square button here. It's this little block, this little square with a square in it. You could press that button and then type in 86 inside of it and then press the EXE to work out the answer, being 7,396. So that's one way we could do it. Alternatively, you could actually type in the 86 first and then press the square button and then press the EXE or equals, and that gives you the same answer. Okay, for this calculator, if we wanted to work out 86 squared, you've got the squared button here, the X with the little squared symbol above it, and you just type in 86 squared and then press the equals, and then that will give you the same answer. And likewise, you could actually press the squared button first and then type in 86 and press equals, and that will give you the same answer. Okay, so that's question one. Question two. Question 2 says to find the square root of 2,209. Okay, so on this calculator, if we wanted to work out the square root of 2,209, what we would do is, just move it over, let's first of all find that square root button. So the square root button is here, so we're going to press the square root of 2,209 and then press equals or EXE, and that's equal to 47. And likewise for this calculator, we would press, and then you got the square root button here. So you've got the square root of 2,209 and then press equals and you get the same answer. Okay, so the answer is 47. Okay, question number 3. Question number 3 says, find the cube root of 614.125. Okay, so in this calculator, if we look at the square root button, just above it, you've got the other roots. So if we press shift and then press that, we can type in other roots. And we want the cube root, so we're going to press 3 for the cube root and then press to the side, and that puts us underneath the root sign. And then we want to do the cube root of 614.125 and then press equals, and that'll give us our answer. And the answer has actually come up as 17/2. We could change the format of that, and we may want to write it as a decimal instead. So you could press shift and then press the EXE button here, and that'll change it to 8.5. So that's one way you could change it. Alternatively, you could press the format button and then press down to decimal if you wanted to and get 8.5 as well. So depending on which way you want your answer, you could have it as a fraction or as a decimal. In this case, because it was decimal, I'm going to give it as 8.5. Okay, so 8.5. Okay, this calculator's got a cube root button. So just above the square root, there's the cube root button. So if you press shift and then press the square root, you get the cube root. And then you can type in 614.125, then press equals. And then again, you get 17/2. And then you can press this SD button, and then that changes it to 8.5. Okay, and that would be the same answer. Okay, let's have a look at question number 4. Okay, question number 4, it's a calculator question. And we've been asked to find the value of 3 to the power of 10. So let's get our calculator here, and we want to do 3 to the power of 10. So in this calculator, the power button that we want to use is here, where we've got this white square within the hollow square above it, just to the, above it. You could press the button first and then press 3 and then press to the right and then type in 10 and then press EXE, and that'll give us our answer of 59,049. Alternatively, you could press 3 and then press that button and then just type in 10, and then again that comes up with the answer. So let's write that down, 59,049, so 59,049. And on this calculator, if you've got this one, this type of calculator, the power button is here, the X with the little square above it. So what we would do is you could press that button first if you want, and press 3 and then press the right and then type 10 again, and that'll give you your answer. Okay, so that's question 4. Let's have a look at our next question. Okay, question number 5. Question number 5 says to work out the square root of 62 and to give your answer to 1 decimal place. So the square root button is here. So we're going to press, if we just move it up a bit, the square root of 62, and then press exe, and that'll give you your answer. And my calculator display has said the square root of 62. It's given it as a surd, where it's left that square root symbol in. Now we want it as a decimal number, and we actually wanted it to 1 decimal place. So let's actually get it to display as a decimal. So if we press the shift button and then exe, it'll give it as a decimal. Alternatively, you could press the format button. And let's write that down. Now, even though it says the 1 decimal place, I'd probably write the whole thing out to begin with, so, or some of it out, 7.874007.874. I'm actually just gonna write the whole thing out there. Now we want to give it to 1 decimal place, so it's going to be 7 point. Now we've got 87, so that means we're going to round up, so it's going to be 7.9. So to 1 decimal place, it'd be 7.9. On this calculator, again, we would press the square root button, so square root, and then square root of 62, and then press equals. And then again, that one's come up as a surd as well, so it's leaving it as a surd, which means it's got the square root sign. And then you can just press the SD button, and it comes up as the same number, and then you can round it. Okay, let's look at our next question. So question number 6 says to find the value of the square root of 7.84 plus 6.5 squared, and to give your answer as a decimal. So let's do that. So first of all, with this calculator, we want to type it in, the square root. So the square root button is here, square root of 7.84. Now, whenever we want to write plus 6.5 squared, I'm going to press to the right here, because if I press plus, it keeps it under the square root sign. So I'm just going to press delete, and I'm going to press to the right just to move that cursor out of underneath the square root. Plus 6.5, and then the squared button is there. And that's then, you can see what we're trying to type in is on our calculator display. So it's very important that whenever you are doing that plus, it doesn't stay under that square root sign. And then press exe, so that exe equals, and then it's come up as a fraction. The question says to give your answer as a decimal. So to give us a decimal, I'm just going to press shift, and then I'm going to press exe, and it gives us a decimal, 45.05. So let's write that down, 45.05. And that's the answer to that question. And if I was to do it on the cover calculator, very similar. So I'd press the square root of 7.84. Again, the cursor's underneath the square root sign, so we're going to press to the right to bring it out, plus 6.5 squared, and then press equals, that was the square button, and we've got 901 over 20, press the SD button, and it comes up as 45.05. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 7. So question number 7, we've been asked to work out each of the following and to give your answers as decimals. So let's do, I'm going to do all 3 of them using this calculator first, and then I'll do them with the other one. So we've got 8.3 squared, so 8.3, and then the squared button is here. Press equals or exe. It comes up as a fraction, so I'm going to press shift and then exe, and it comes up as 68.89. So let's write that down, 68.89. Okay, so that's part A done. Part B. Part B, we've got 5.2, and then in brackets, 3.8 subtract 2.7. So let's type that in. So that's going to be 5.2. Now the brackets on this calculator are here. So you've got open brackets and closed brackets. So open bracket, and then 3.8 subtract 2.7. And then close brackets, and then we'll just press exe or equals, and that gives us again as a fraction, but the question has asked us to give them as decimals, so shift and then exe to convert it as a decimal, 5.72. So let's write that down, 5.72. And then finally, we've got 2 divided by 3.2. So we'll get our calculator and we'll do 2. Now, it's 2 divided by 3.2 or 2 over. It's got the fraction. Let's use the fraction button. So here you can see here we've got the fraction button. It's a little white rectangle, a line, and then a hollow rectangle. So if we press that, we get the fraction. We'll press 2 on the numerator, and then we'll press down to type in the denominator. We'll type in 3.2 down there. And then if we press equals or exe, it comes up as 5/8. And if we press shift, then exe again, it writes as a decimal, 0.625. So then write that down, 0.625. Okay, now let's just do them again on the other calculator just to show you. So on this calculator, we would have 8.3 squared, so 8.3 squared, and then press equals, and that comes up again as a fraction. Press the SD button, and it comes up as 68.89. Next, we've got our 5.2 brackets, 3.8 subtract 2.7. So the brackets are here in this calculator. So we're going to do 5.2, then open brackets, 3.8 subtract 2.7, close brackets, and then press equals, and then press SD, and it comes up as 5.72 again. And finally, this one here, the fraction button is here, so we press that button, and then press 2, and then press down, 3.2, press equals, and then change it from a fraction to a decimal. We're pressing the SD button, and that's our answer is 0.625. That's it. Okay, let's have a look at question number 8. So we've been asked to calculate each of the following and to give our answers as decimals. So 8a says to work out 5 over 0.4 squared. So on this calculator, let's press our fraction button first. So fraction button is here, and then we're going to press 5, then press down, and then we're going to type in 0.4, and then the squared button, which is there, and then press EXE. It comes up as 125 quarters. We want it to decimal, so we'll press shift and then that button, and it comes up as 31.25. So let's write that down, 31.25. Okay, next part B. It says to work out 5.2 cubed plus the square root of 5,655.04. Okay, so we're going to type in 5.2 cubed, so we're going to press the power button, and then we're going to do 5.2, and then press to the right and put a power 3 for cubed, and then to the right again, and then plus the square root of 5,655.04. And then we'll just press EXE or equals, and then that comes up as a decimal actually, 215.808. So let's write that down, 215.808, and that's it. Okay, on the other calculator, just to show you, the first one, we would have pressed the fraction button, and then pressed 5, and then over 0.4 squared. And that's equal to, again, 125 quarters. Pressing the SD button gives us a 31.25. And then this one, I would type in 5.2. I could press the power button, but I actually would have pressed shift and then the squared button, and that gives me the cubed, because just above the squared is cubed. And then I would press plus, and then the square root of 5,655.04, and then press equals. And again, that gives us our answer of 215.808, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 9. Okay, question number 9 says to work out 1.9 multiplied by 121.5 over 30 subtract 4.35. So let's get our calculator. I'm going to press the fraction button. I'm going to press 1.9 multiplied by 121.5. So that's the numerator filled out. Then press down to go down to the bottom. And then 30 subtract 4.35. And then press the EXE or equals. And then we get the answer of 9. So the answer is 9. And then this calculator, very similar, we press the fraction button. 1.9 multiplied by 121.5. Press down. And then we've got 30 subtract 4.35. And then press equals. And then again, we get the answer of 9. Okay, question number 10. Okay, question number 10, we've been asked to use our calculator to work out the value of the following and to give our answer as a decimal and to write down all the figures on your calculator display. So let's get our calculator, and we're going to type that in. So we'll press the fraction button, 2.12 multiplied by 5.2, that's the numerator, and then go down. And then we've got 9.21 subtract 2.8 and press equals. And it actually comes up as a decimal to begin with, so that's fantastic. So we just need to write that down, and that's it. And likewise on the other calculator, it'd be just the same really. So you'd press the fraction button, and then we type in 2.12 multiplied by 5.2, press down, 9.21 subtract 2.8 is equal to, and then we get the same answer, and that's it. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 11. Okay, question number 11 says, use your calculator to work out 7.2 over 9.1 multiplied by 2.8 as a decimal. And we're to write down all the figures on our calculator display in part A, and part B, we've been asked to round the answer to one decimal place. Okay, so let's get our first calculator, and we'll press our fraction button, and we'll do 7.2, then press down. We've got 9.1 multiplied by 2.8, then press EXE or equals. And then that's a fraction. We've been told to give it as a decimal, so press shift and then EXE again, and then we've got our decimal number. So let's write that down. So we've just written down all the figures on our calculator display, and then we've been asked to give our answer to one decimal place. Around this to one decimal place would be 0.3. That's it, so 0.3. And if we get our other calculator, we can just see that it would be the same really. So we'd press the fraction button, we would press 7.2, we press down, 9.1 multiplied by 2.8, and then press equals. And then we just press the SD button to get it as a decimal, and then round it to 0.3. Okay, question number 12. Okay, question number 12, we've been asked to work out the value of 13.2 plus 8.9 over 2.3 squared as a decimal. Part A, we've been asked to give all our figures on the calculator display, and part B, we've been asked to give it to one decimal place. So let's type it in. Let's press the fraction button to begin with. And then we've got 13.2 plus 8.9 on the numerator, and then press down. And then we've got 2.3, and then it's squared. So we've got our squared button here. And then if we press equals or EXE, we get it as a fraction. We've been asked to give it as a decimal, so press shift and then EXE again. And then we've got our answer of 4.1776936762. And that's it. And part B says to give our answer to one decimal place, that'll be 4.2. So 4.2. Okay, and just on the other calculator, just to show you, we will type the same thing in. So we're going to press the fraction button. We're down 13.2 plus 8.9. Then beneath we'd write 2.3 squared. And that's just an important button, del, to delete, and then press equals, and that gives us, and then press the SD button, our answer of 4.1776936762. And that's it. Okay, let's have a look at question number 13. So question number 13, we've been asked to calculate the cube root of 80.43 squared and to give our answer to 3 decimal places. So let's get our calculator and we want to do the cube root. So on this calculator, so we want the cube root to begin with. So if we have a look above the square root, we've got our roots. So shift and then the square root button. We can press 3 for the cube root, then press to the right and then press 80.43. And then we want squared. Remember our square button's here. And then as you can see what's on our calculator display, it looks like what's on the page. And then we press EXE and actually gives it as a decimal. So that's fantastic. So that's going to be, I'm not going to round it straight away. I'm going to write the whole thing down. 18.63282532. So that's what's on my calculator display. And then we've been asked to give our answer to 3 decimal places. So that means if we want to round it to 3 decimal places, that would be 18.633 because the 8 would round up. So that would be 18.633. And then on this calculator, we've got the cube root button here. So we press shift and then that button, we type in 80.43 and then squared. And then just press equals and then that's it. And then again, we round it to 3 decimal places. Okay, let's have a look at question number 14. Okay, let's have a look at question number 14. So question number 14 says, calculate the value of 183 plus 892 over 10.4 multiplied by 8.75, and to give our answer as the decimal. And part A says write down all the figures on your calculator display. So let's get our calculator and let's type it in. So let's turn it on, and then because it is, let's get rid of that second, because it is a fraction, let's use our fraction, and we'll type in our 183 plus 892, then press down, and then type 10.4 multiplied by 8.75. And when we do that, if we press equals, we get an answer of 1075 over 91. But we want it as a decimal, so press shift and then EXE, and then that gives us a decimal number. So let's write that down, 11.81318681 and so on. So let's write that down. Okay, and part B says to give your answer to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 11.8, so 11.8. And then to decide what's going to be in the second decimal place, we've got 1 3. So because it's 3, we're not going to round up. So it's going to be 11.81. And that's it. Okay, so we've tried it with one calculator. Let's just try it in the other to make sure we get the same answer. So again, we press the fraction button. We're going to type in 183 plus 892, then press down. And then we'll do 10.4 multiplied by 8.75. And when we press equals, we get that's equal to 1075 over 91. And then we press SD button. And again, we get our 11.81318681 and so on. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 15. So question number 15. So I've got our calculator and I'm just going to type in 13. So 13 divided by 0.3 and then the squared button, and then equals. And I've got 1300 over 9. press Shift and EXE to convert it to decimal quickly, and we get 144.44444 and so on. So let's write that down. Okay, so that's part A. Part B now asks us to round that number to the nearest whole number. So it's 144.44444. That's closer to 144 than it is to 145. So answer will be 144 to the nearest whole number. And just to show you on the other calculator, if we do 13 divided by 0.3 and then the squared button and then press equals, we get 1,300 ninths and then press SD and it changes it to the 144.444 and so on. Okay, let's have a look at our next question. Okay, question number 16. Question number 16 says to work out 7 multiplied by the square root of 3, or 7 multiplied by root 3, and to give your answers the decimal, and to write down all the figures on our calculator display. So let's get our calculator and type 7 multiplied by the square root of 3, and then press equals. And that gives it a 7 root 3, which means 7 lots of root 3. We've been asked to give it as a decimal number, so press Shift and then EXE, and then that gives it as 12.124355565. So let's write that down. And that's it. And just to show you on the other version of the calculator, we'll do 7 multiplied by the square root of 3, press equals, and then it gives it a 7 root 3 again, 7 lots of root 3. And then press the SD button and it gives us our answer, 12.124355565. And that's it. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 17. We've been asked to use our calculator to work out part A, part B, part C. So part A, 3 to the power of 6. So we're going to do 3, and then we're going to press to the power button, so power button here, and then 6. We'll go 3 to the power of 6, and then we'll just press equals. And that gives us 729. So 729, so 729. And just to show you again that you could have, instead of doing 3 and then the power button and then 6, we could have typed the power button first, press 3, then press to the right, then press 6, then press equals. And that gives us 729 again. And just to show you on the other calculator, if we do that, we would do 3, and then we've got the power button here, the X with the little white box, and then 6. And then press equals, and that gives us the answer of 729 as well. Okay, let's have a look at question 17b. So question 17b says use your calculator to work out the reciprocal of 1.5. So we want to find the reciprocal of 1.5. Now, we can do this in a few different ways. To find the reciprocal of something, you do 1 over. So if we do 1 over 1.5, so 1 over 1.5, that will give us the reciprocal. So on our calculator, we could press our fraction button and do 1 over 1.5, and then press equals, and that's equal to 2/3. So we could get 2/3. So that's one way we could find the reciprocal of 1.5. Another way to find the reciprocal of a number is to know that the reciprocal of something is something to the power of -1. So if we do 1.5 to the power of -1, then we can find the reciprocal. And actually, if we have a look at our calculator here, we've got the shaded in square here with the power of -1. So that's the reciprocal. So if we press 1.5 and then press Shift and then that button, you get 1.5 to the power of -1. And then if we press equals, we get that's equal to 2/3. So that shaded in square with the power of -1 is the reciprocal button. So if you want to find the reciprocal of a number, you can just type in the number and then press Shift and then the power button, and you'll get to the power of -1, and then just press equals, and that'll give you the reciprocal of a number. And part C says find the cube root of 6,859. So we want to work out the cube root, so the cube root of 6,859. So we'll just type that into our calculator. So in this calculator, we want the other roots. So we're going to press Shift and then the square root button, and then we can type in 3 for the cube root, then press right, and then press 6,859. So you've got the cube root of 6,859. Then we can press equals, and we get that's 19. So then we can just write down 19. So now let's try these two with the other calculator. So let's just turn it on. And 1 over 1.5, again, we'll just press the fraction button and press 1 over 1.5. But to show you where the power of -1 is, if we type in 1.5, and you'll see here, there's actually an x to the power of -1. So you can just press that and then press equals, and that will give you the reciprocal of 1.5. And that's 2/3, which we found. So in this calculator, you've got that button, that's x to the power of -1. That will find the reciprocal of a number for you. And then the cube root, again, you could just press you've got the cube root above square root, so you just press Shift and then the square root, you've got the cube root of 6,859, and then just press equals, and that's 19. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 18. So question number 18, we've been asked to calculate the value of 13.2 subtract 1.29 over 39.1 subtract 44.8. And we've been asked to give our answers as decimal and part A to write all the figures down from our calculator display. So let's press the fraction button and we want to type in 13.2, so 13.2 subtract 1.29. So we're going to have that on the top, and then below, just pressing down, we'll have 39.1 subtract 44.8. And whenever we press equals, we get that's equal to negative. Now we want to write it as a decimal, so shift and then exe. And then we've got negative 2.089473684. So let's write that down. And I've just written that down, and part B says give your answer to three significant figures. So three significant figures, well, that's going to be negative 2.0, and then we've got 8 9, so we're going to round up to be 9, so it's going to be negative 2.09, and that's three significant figures, and that's it. And on the other calculator, again, that won't be quite straightforward, but we would just type in really the same thing. We'd press the fraction button, type in what we've got on the top line, press down, type in what we've got on the bottom line, and then press equals. And I'll just do that, so it's going to be 13.2 subtract 1.29, and press down, and then we've got 39.1 subtract 44.8, press equals, comes up as a fraction, press the SD button, and there you go. Okay, let's look at our next question, question number 19. Okay, question number 19. Question number 19 says use your calculator to find, and then we've got the square root of 39.3 squared subtract 1.24 squared. And we've been asked to give all the figures on our calculator display and then to write our answer to three significant figures. So let's type it in. We want to do the square root, so press the square root button. So this button here, square root. And then we want to have 39.3, so 39.3. And then we want squared, so the squared button, which is here. And then we've got subtract, so subtract 1.24 squared. And then we've, as you can see, what we've typed in looks like what we want to work out, and then just press equals. And actually comes up as a decimal number as 39.2804329. So that's it, that's part A. And part B says write your answer to three significant figures. So that's going to be 39 point, and then we've got 2 8, so that's going to be 39.3. So 39.3. And if you need to recap significant figures, there's an amazing video on Corbettmaths to go through significant figures. Okay, so that's question 19. With that calculator, using this one, quite similar. You press the square root button, which is here, and then you're going to type in your 39.3. We've got our squared button there, subtract 1.24, and then squared again, and then equals. And then we've got the same answer of 39.28 and so on. Okay, question number 20. Okay, question number 20. Question number 20 says calculate the fourth root of 100 take away 2.4 cubed. So we're going to need to get the fourth root. So remember, we've got our other roots here just above the square root. So we're going to press shift and then that button, square root button, and then you can type in your other root. So we want the fourth root. So we press 4. So you can see the fourth root. Then you can press right, and now we're typing in here underneath the square root sign. So we're going to press 100, subtract, and then 2.4. Now we want cubed, so we want to press cube. So we're going to press then the power button again. So the power one here, and then press 3. And then we've got the fourth root of 100, subtract 2.4 cubed. And if we press equals, we get that's equal to 3.046818493. So let's write that down. Now in this calculator, we want to get the other roots, and the other roots are above the power. So here you've got the power button, the X with the little white square above it. Just above there in yellow, you can see we've got the other roots, so we can press shift and then press that button, and then you've got the roots. Press 4 for the fourth root, press to the right, 100, subtract 2.4. And now we want cubed, and as you can see, just above squared in yellow, you've got x cubed, so you can then just press shift and squared. And then that gives you your cubed, and then press equals, and we get the same answer. Okay, let's have a look at question number 21. Okay, question number 21 says, use your calculator to work out 91 squared subtract 3.9 over the square root of 162 subtract 4.5 cubed. Part A, give all the figures on the calculator display, and part B, to write our answer to three significant figures. So because we've got that fraction, let's press the fraction button, and on the numerator, we want to write 91 squared, so we'll press the squared button, and then subtract 3.9. So that's the numerator, the top of the fraction, press down. Now we want that big square root, so we're just going to press square root. So you can see we've got the root, and then we're going to do 162 subtract 4.5. Now we want cubed, so we're going to press the power button here, so the power button, and then press cubed. And there you go, you can see what we've typed in matches what we've got on the page. We then press equals, and that will give us our answer of 983.1769002. So let's write that down. And part B says to give our answer to three significant figures, so that's just going to be 983. So that's three significant figures, 983. And just on the other calculator, so again, we'd press the fraction button, we would type in 91, we'd then press the squared button, then subtract 3.9, so that's the top. And then we press down, and then we want the square root, so we press the square root button, and then 162 subtract 4.5. And I suppose this is the only difference in this one, where we want that cube, so we can just press shift and then cube. I mean, you could have pressed the power button and typed in 3, but I would just use the cube option there, and then press equals, and then you get the same answer. Okay, our next question, question number 22. Okay, question number 22. So question number 22A says, use your calculator to work out 398 over 1.98 cubed, subtract the square root of 102. And to give your answer as a decimal and to write all the figures on your calculator display. So I'm going to press my fraction to begin with. I'm going to type 398 on the top, press down, and 1.98, and I want cubed, so I'm going to press the power button and then 3. So that's the first bit, that's that bit typed in. Now I then want to have subtract. Now the subtract isn't on the denominator, it's beside it. So I'm going to press, as you can see, the cursor there is actually by the power. So if I press right, it then puts me on the denominator. If I press right again, I can now see that I'm there beside the fraction. And then subtract, and you can see that's where the subtract would go. If I didn't do that, and I was actually there, if I press subtract, it would be up there beside the 3, and I wouldn't want that. And if whenever I press right again and I press subtract, it would go in the denominator, and I didn't want that. And that's why I had to, whenever I had just typed in the 3, I'd have to press right again, and then right again, and you can see then I'm up beside, outside of the fraction. So subtract, and then the square root of 102. So that's what I've got. And that matches what's on my page. And then press equals. And that gives me an answer of 41.17335013. So let's write that down. So that's part A. Part B says we've got to round the numbers, the 398, the 1.98, and the 102 to one significant figure. And to check our answer is sensible, you must show your workings. So let's do that. So we've got to show our workings. So we've got to round these numbers to one significant figure. So to one significant figure, let's just round them here. That would be 400 to one significant figure. This number will be 2 to one significant figure. And this number will be 100 to one significant figure. So let's replace them. So that's going to be 400 over, and instead of 1.98 cubed, it's going to be 2 cubed, so 2 cubed. And then we've got to subtract the square root of, and then that's going to be 100. So that's what we get when we round these numbers to one significant figure. Now we just need to work it out. So let's do our power first of all. 2 cubed, that's 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. So we've got 400 divided by 8, subtract the square root of 100. Now let's work out the square root of 100. The square root of 100 is 10, so we've got 400 over 8, subtract 10. And now we need to work out 400 divided by 8. Now 40 divided by 8 is 5, so 400 divided by 8 would be 50. But let's just check it using our bus shelter method. 400 divided by 8. How many 8's go into 4? 0, remainder 4. How many 8's go into 40? 5. And how many 8's go into 0? 0. So that'll be 50. So we've got 50 subtract 10. So 50 subtract 10, and 50 subtract 10 is 40. And we were asked to check our answer to part A is sensible. Now our answer to part A was 41.17, and we've got 40. They're pretty close. So it just shows that that answer is sensible for that question. And just to show you that if we were typing this into this calculator, we would have pressed the fraction button, we would have typed 398, press down, and then we would type 1.98. We could use the power button, or I would press shift and square to get the cubed option. Now here you can see the cursor's on the denominator, so if we press right, you can see it's up there. Now actually at this point, instead of pressing shift and cube to get it there, if we'd pressed the power button like so, and we typed in 3, you would see the cursor would be in the power, and we'd press right and then right again. So you just need to make sure you've got that big cursor there, and then subtract. And now we want the square root of 102, so the square root of 102, and then press equals. And it'll give you that same answer. Okay, let's look at our next question. Okay, question number 23. Question number 23 says to calculate the square root of 9,080 over 4.7 subtract 0.866 close brackets cubed, and to give our answer to 3 significant figures. So let's get our calculator and let's type this in. So we want the square root, so the square root button is there. Then we've got a fraction on it, so we're going to press the fraction button. Now we want 9,080 on the top, so 9,080. That's so far so good. Now we're going to go down. Now you'll notice here we've got these brackets, so we want to open up our brackets and type 4.7 subtract 0.866. Then we've got closed brackets and then cubed. Now in this calculator we're going to press the power button and type 3, and that will give us our cubed. And as you can see now, what we've typed in matches what we've got on our page. We can then just press exe, and that gives us our answer of, and I'd write this whole thing down to begin with, 12.69301407. And now I'm going to round it to 3 significant figures, so that'll be 12.7. So that's be 12.7. And just getting the other calculator, I would do the same approach really. I'd press the square root button, then I would press the fraction button, and then I would write 9,080 on the top, press down, open up the brackets. So there, open up the brackets would be there. 4.7 subtract 0.866 close brackets. And then cubed, I would then press shift and square because you've got that little yellow cube there, and then press equals, and you get the same answer. Okay, our next question. Okay, question number 24. Question number 24 says to use our calculator to work out 5.03 multiplied by 8.991 over 0.4987, subtract the cube root of 998.6, and to give our answers a decimal and to write all the figures on our calculator display. Okay, so let's get our calculator, and we've got this fraction to begin with, so let's press the fraction button. We've got 5.03 multiplied by 8.991, so that's on the top of our fraction. Then let's press down and type our 0.4987. Now I want to then come out of the fraction and have that subtract, so I'm going to press to the right, and as you can see now we've got the big cursor there, we can do subtract. And then I want the cube root, so remember the other roots is above the square root, so I press shift and square root, so I can move my other roots, and I press 3 for the cube root, then press to the right, and I'm going to type 998.6. And what I've typed in matches what I've got on the page, and then you can see actually some of it's over here, so I'm going to actually press right just double check it, and then, or actually press left and double check it, and then right and check that side if I need to. And then if I press equals, I get that's equal to 80.68991047. So let's write that down. So there you go, so that's part A done. And actually just to do that on the other calculator at this point, just to show you. So on the other calculator, I would have used the fraction button, again, the same. 5.03 multiplied by 8.991. Press down and type our 0.4987, and then to the right, and as you can see we've got that big cursor, so subtract. And then for the cube root above the square root in yellow, you've got the cube root, so shift and then square root, and that gives you the cube root already, and 998.6, and then press equals, and we get that same answer. So that's part A done. And part B says use approximations to show that your answer to part A is sensible. You must show your workings. You might notice that I've just changed that. I'll change it on the website shortly. So that is part B. And part B says we do the use approximations. So we're going to be using estimations. So that means we're going to round our numbers. So instead of 5.03, I'm going to use 5 multiplied by. And instead of 8.991, I'm going to use 9 divided by. And instead of 0.4987, I'm going to use 0.5, a half. Remember, whenever you divide by a half, you double something. You know, if I done 7 divided by half, that's 14, because there's 14 halves in 7. So that's just a quite useful thing to know. And then we've got subtract the cube root. So the cube root's off, and we've got 998.6. So I'm going to use 1,000. So I've just rounded those numbers to one significant figure, and let's work it out. So I'm going to start off with my cube root. So the cube root of 1,000. Well, the cube root of something is what do you multiply by itself and by itself again to get 1,000. So 10 times 10 is 100 times 10 is 1,000. So the cube root of 1,000 is 10. So we've got 5 multiplied by 9 over 0.5 subtract 10. Let's work out the top of our fraction. 5 times 9 is 45, so I've got 45 divided by 0.5, and then I've still got subtract 10. 45 divided by 0.5, so that's how many halves go into 45? Well, there'll be 90 halves on 45, so that's 90. Then we've still got to subtract 10, and that's equal to 80. And as you can see, that's 80.68 and so on. And we've got an answer of 80. So is our answer sensible? Yes, it is. Okay, question number 25. So using a calculator, work out the square root of the sine of 82 divided by the cos of 82 degrees, and to write our answer to 3 significant figures. Now, let's get our calculator and let's type it in. So we're going to do the square root. So let's press the square root button to begin with. And then as you can see, we've got that fraction in there. So let's press the fraction button. And then in the numerator, we want to do the sine of 82 degrees. So we're going to press the sine of 82. And then actually one thing to notice is when you press the sine, it opens up brackets. We need to close our brackets. Sometimes if you don't close your brackets, your calculator might come up with what they call a syntax error, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I'm going to do the sine of 82, close brackets, and I don't need to type in the degree symbol because my calculator is already in degrees mode, and I can see that I've got that degree, that little D at the top, that stands for degrees. And then I can press down, and I need to type in the cos of 82 degrees, so the cos of 82. And whenever I press cos, it opened up brackets, so I need to close brackets as well. So that is the square root of the sine of 82 degrees over the cos of 82 degrees. And then if I press exe or equals, that gives me an answer of 2.66746537. And the question says to give our answer to 3 significant figures. That'll be 2.67. So that's it, 2.67. I just want to show you that if whenever the calculator, if we didn't close those brackets, so if I left it like that, and I deleted that as well, so if I just pressed the sine of 82 and went down and didn't close that bracket and press equals, I get this thing called syntax error. And that just means that if I haven't really put the symbols in the right places or haven't maybe remembered to close our brackets and so on. So it's important here, whenever you get the sine of 82, you need to close your brackets, and the cos of 82, close brackets, and then press equals, and then you get your answer. Okay, now on the other calculator, just to show you, it's the same really. You press the square root, press the fraction. On the numerator, the sine of 82, again, close brackets, press down. The cos of 82, close brackets, and then press equals. If you didn't close one of those brackets, or both of them, or whatever, then you get that syntax error. So it's very important that you close those brackets. Okay, let's have a look at our next question, question number 26. So question number 26 says, use your calculator to work out the square root of the cos of 81 degrees plus the cos of 7 degrees over the sine of 81 degrees, subtract the sine of 7 degrees. And we're to give all our answers on a calculator display, and then part B is to round it to 3 significant figures. So let's type this in. So we've got that square root, so let's press the square root button. Then we've got the fraction, so let's press our fraction button. As you can see, we've got the square root in our fraction. We want the cos, so we'll press the cos of 81. You notice it opened up brackets, so we do need to close those brackets. And then we've got plus the cos of 7 degrees. So we then press plus, and the cos, again there, the cos of 7 degrees. Now again, it's opened up brackets, so we need to close those brackets again. So I've typed in everything on the top line of that fraction. Now I need to press down, and I'm going to press the sine of 81, again closing brackets, subtract this time the sine of 7 degrees. So the sine of 7 degrees, close brackets. And then I'm going to press equals, and that gives me my answer of 1.151974315. And that's it. So I've written down everything on our calculator display, and part B says to give it to 3 significant figures. So that'll be 1.15. So 1.15. And that's it. Actually, using this other calculator is going to be very similar. You press the square root, you press the fraction button. On the top, we're going to press the cos of 81 degrees. Again, it's open up brackets, so we need to close them. Plus the cos of 7 degrees, close brackets, press down. The sine of 81 degrees, close brackets, subtract the sine of 7 degrees, close brackets, and press equals. And you get the same answer. So that, it's just the same on that calculator. And then question number 27 says, using a calculator, work out the following and to write our answer to 3 significant figures. So we've got this big square root sign. So press our square root. Then we've got a fraction. So let's press our fraction button. And then we've got 9.44 multiplied by the cos of 124 degrees, close brackets, and we close the brackets there. And then press down to go to the denominator. And we've got 3.5 to the power of 4. Sometimes I've seen students just type in 3.54 there and not realize that's a superscript 4. It's a little 4 up above. So we'll type in 3.5 and then press the power button, which is this one, to the power of 4. And then if you have a look at the cursor's up at the top here, so you wouldn't press subtract now because it's up there beside the 4. So I'm just gonna press delete. So the cursor was up there, so you can press right, so you get it there, and then subtract 190. And that's it. What I've got in my calculator looks like what we're trying to work out. So press equals, and we get our answer of 0.36356023. And the question says to round out the 3 significant figures, so it'll be 0.364. So 0.364. And that's it. Getting the other calculator, just to show you, we'll press the square root button, the fraction button, and type 9.44 multiplied by the cos of 124 degrees. The brackets have opened, so we need to close them, and then press down. Then we've got 3.5 and we want to the power of 4. So we're going to press the power button, which is this one, the X with the little box, and then press 4. Now we're not going to press subtract next because the little cursor's up there, still in the power. So we have to press right to get it there beside it, and then subtract 190 and then press equals. And then we've got the same answer again. And that's it. So these have been the video solutions to the use of a calculator practice questions. I really hope that you found this video useful. In this video, I have used 2 different calculators. I've used the new Class Wiz, the one that I've sort of spot in the shops a lot, and it's the newer version. And I use the older version because a lot of students still use those, and maybe your brother and sister's giving you one of those. You might have a preferred version. I'm not going to tell you which one I prefer. Maybe watch the video and have a guess which one I prefer the best. But in this video, I've gone through the video solutions, the use of a calculator practice questions. If you need any extra help on this topic, if you go to corbettmaths.com/contents and scroll down to video number 352, that's the video tutorial on this topic. Alternatively, you could scan the QR code. But again, I really hope you found this video useful. If you have found it useful, please like it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you. Cheers. Bye.